Hello and welcome to another edition of the Law Gallery, coming to you from the Lagos studios of KAFTAN TV. As you know, this is a program where we talk about the Nigerian rule of law, the Nigerian constitution, and everything in between. Now today we'll be talking about the intellectual property law in Nigeria. We'll be considering the concepts, some of the challenges, and how to maneuver ourselves using this law in Nigeria. But before we do that, we'll go on a short break now to take the relay of the news update on the program today. We'll be back.
The Lagos State Police Command has said it is unallowed to respond to any security issue in Ikorodu. This is following some concerns over a trending flyer warning residents, especially non-Yoruba indigenes of Ikorodu town, between 10 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. on Saturday, August 19th and Tuesday, August 22, 2023. Information on the flyer circulating on social media platforms as announced by the Olumale Eluku of Ikorodu, Chief Murisiku Oriagba, disclosed that Oba Abdulkabir Shototobi has confirmed that this year's Eluku Festival Ikorodu town will come up on the date above. He advised both males, females, sons and daughters, residents, strangers, car owners, Okada riders, Keke Marwa riders, drivers, and especially those who are non-Yoruba or indigene of Ikorodu town to please stay away from coming into Ikorodu township from 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. on the above named dates. Contacted, Oriagba, whose name was on the flyer, confirmed its authenticity. He, however, said that the affected areas were only the centers of the town and not the entire town. Oriagba, in a telephone conversation on Thursday, said, yes, it's in the center of the town, not the whole of Ikorodu. It has boundaries, not the entire Ikorodu. It's the old center of the town. It does not affect everywhere. The line of Boyega Akosile, the chief press secretary to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, was busy when called for a reaction. The state police public relations officer, Benjamin Ondeyin, however, said the command had no intelligence of any security threat in the area, but the police are unallowed to respond to any. Moving on to the next, Abuja Justice Nicholas Oweibu of a federal high court sitting in Lagos noted that the federal government has shown signs of not being law-abiding and has no respect for the court. The judge made the pronouncement while striking out the firearm possession charge against the suspended governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. The charge was brought against Emefiele by Department of State Services (DSS). Justice Oweibu, who struck out the charge for want of diligent prosecution following the withdrawal application made by the Director of Public Prosecution of the Ministry of Justice, Mohammed Abubakar, at the last adjourned date, the DPP made an oral application to the court to withdraw the charges against Emefiele. Away from that, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, said yesterday in Accra, Ghana, that it will not hesitate to invade Niger Republic if all efforts to reverse the coup in the country fail. This came as the German government said it is in support of sanctions imposed on the military junta in the country by the European Union. It will be recalled that ECOWAS heads of states and governments had at its second extraordinary summit in Abuja last week activated its standing force should the junta in Niger refuse to restore to power ousted president of the country, Mohamed Bazoum. The threats came as defense chiefs of member states met in the Ghanaian capital to strategize on the next line of action on Niger and discuss details of the standby force. The meeting continues today. It listed past ECOWAS deployment in Sierra Leone, Liberia and elsewhere as examples of readiness for military action.
Welcome back. It's still the Law Gallery coming to you from the Lagos studios of KAFTAN TV. And before we went on the break, I told you that today we'll be talking about intellectual property law in Nigeria. Of course, I don't do this alone. I always have brilliant legal practitioners joining me on the program. Today we'll be joined via Skype. We will be joined via Skype by another brilliant legal practitioner. But before we go into the discussion, let me introduce the topic. Now, we're talking about intellectual property law. Now, what is intellectual property? Intellectual property refers to creation of the mind, such as invention, literary and artistic works, designs, symbols, names, and images used in commerce. Now, there are different types of intellectual property. It could be a copyright or patent or trademark, trade secrets, or geographical identity indications. Now, intellectual property law on its own deals with laws to protect and enforce the rights of creators and owners of inventions, writing, music, design, and other works known as intellectual property. Now, today we are joined by Barrister Ebenezer Akinbuli, who will be engaging in the discussion of the intellectual property law in Nigeria, the place of the Nigerian Constitution, the Nigerian rule of law, and probably the consequences of breaching the law. Thank you for joining us on the program today, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bada.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's just go directly into the discussion without wasting much of our time. Now, could you introduce us to what's intellectual property law, buttressing what I already said? Could you introduce us to what it means?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, the concept of intellectual property law in Nigeria, just like the name connotes, intellectual property. Yeah, so it has to do with the ownership of content owned solely from someone's mind, that emanates from someone's mind. It's your property. It's exclusive to you. It's like some intuition, what you get by inspiration or whatever means you get it. It could be like some people get inspired by just sitting down, studying the environment and all of that. Some people also, it could be something that just came and they just invented it, and over time it became part of them. I take for instance Ronaldo. Ronaldo is one person around the world that is well guided by intellectual property. The all of his celebration alone, over time,
a trademark sort of. Yes.
When Ronaldo play football and he spits, that spit, do you know that he has trademarked it? So everything is scissors kick, his bicycle kicks, is trademarked. So these are things that are common to an individual. So therefore, that property, it comes from your own intellect. So that's why it's called intellectual property law. Now, the law aspect of it now is that, okay, how do we now protect people that over time they have built on their strength, they have been able to produce some things, probably logos, colors, write-ups, songs, like music and all of that. So how do we protect this thing from plagiarism? People picking what Mr. A has done. So that's where we have these laws in place. So we have several laws to protect them. We have the problem with the law of intellectual property in Nigeria is that most of these laws are outdated.
Now, Barrister Akinbuli, before we go into the discussion of the law itself, I think we need to clarify some of the concepts of intellectual property. Now, I think one question that would come to the mind of any students listening to us now would be, okay, I am given an assignment and I go online to tap the knowledge, to tap a particular knowledge from the website, maybe Wikipedia or Britannica. Is this not like a breach of intellectual property law? Is it not like, okay, you're stealing somebody's idea?
No, that is the thing is, the idea that your work is in the public domain means that your work has been accepted, means that your work has been protected.
Okay.
For you to do a write-up and give it out to be in the public domain. For instance, when I have some work to do, I go on consult online, but it's my duty to make sure that I reference where I got that work from. So by referencing where I got that work from, it shows that this work is not originally mine. It belongs to XYZ. But I copied for this work. I made reference to it for this work. So over time, it has come to stay. Before now, anybody can just go online, or anybody can just go anywhere and copy what belongs to anybody and use it and claim it as theirs.
True.
But now, if you notice that if you go to some well-developed sites, if you copy a content,
Yes.
they will tell you this content is not yours.
Mm.
If you do not make reference to where you got it from, if you copy it as though it belongs to you,
True.
they will make reference to that no, it's not yours, because there's a database that protects every intellectual property that comes in.
Mm.
So going actually online to copy write-offs or works of previous authors has been protected for the mere fact that it contains in a public domain.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Akinbuli. Now, we've seen cases, probably if you visit the marketplace or local supermarkets on the street, you would see a brand. You would see copies of a brand. You understand? I don't want to mention the name of any brand now, but obviously you would have seen copies of other brands. You see Kike and all. You know, usually it's common on social media, you see such. Is it that these persons are trying not to breach the intellectual property law? I just want you to clarify that, because we've seen it and people are always asking questions. Okay, why do people do this? Why is it that, okay, you're trying to copy a brand, but then you can't copy it directly or you can't copy it correctly? Is it a case of not copying correctly, or they are just trying not to breach the property law?
Yes, they're just trying not to breach the property law. You know, and the thing with the law is that, let's take, for instance, I have a name, Ebenezer. I want to trademark that name. And I trademark that name, Ebenezer.
Okay.
Now, I want to publish that name in the national newspaper for 28 days. Whoever wants to object to it will have to come out and say, no, I own this name. You get me? Will say, I own this name. Now, if somebody else comes now, after I've registered, I've trademarked my own name, and comes up with Epi, it won't be registered.
Okay.
But if you come up and put in Ebenezer,
okay,
it might go.
all right.
It might go. But the approving body would look at the concept behind that name. Okay, what is Ebenezer? What is the meaning of Ebenezer? You know, there's always a write-up that you will put in to back up that name you are trying to register.
Yes.
Like now, take for instance, Ebenezer it means stone of help, wherever that came from. Now I must write that, okay, Ebenezer is a name exclusive to me. It means stone of help, and this is why I'm trying to protect this name. Now, somebody else might come and say Ebenezer to me means foolish guy. Okay. And I just want that name to be there. Okay. It does not conflict my own concept. You get my point?
Yes.
Now that is why, if you remember the story of Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. Okay. When 50 Cent wanted to use that name, 50 Cent came all the way to ask Chinua Achebe to use that name, Fall Apart. Chinua Achebe refused. Okay. All what 50 Cent did was to just add all at the front of the Things Fall Apart and was able to produce his movie. Made it all things fall apart. Exactly. So he's not breaching that existing name, Things Fall Apart. And they have different storylines. You get my point? Yes. Now, we have some people that, for mischief reasons, they want to go into a similar business. Okay. Maybe somebody's producing it, and the name of his drugs is Nike. Okay. And the Nike sign is right. You get my point? Yes. Now, you produce a drug, so you want to deceive the populace. You are now using your own as Nike. You still put that same logo. You are in pure breach of intellectual property. I see this often, just like I was saying. you go to the supermarket, you go to the pharmacy, you see drugs that have similar name.
Yes, yes.
And if we're in a true society, the original owners of that patent have every right to sue for a breach of intellectual property.
Now, what are the key provisions of the Nigerian intellectual property law that we need to be aware of as individuals or as organizations?
Now, the body that regulates intellectual property in Nigeria is the NCC, the Corporate Commission. And most of the laws, that's why I was saying it earlier, that most of the laws that we have are outdated. That is the issue with intellectual property in Nigeria. Most of the laws are out. The earliest law, closest law that we have is a 1992 law. Now we're in 2023.
That's 11 years after.
New concept, technology has come up and all of that. So how do that law fit in?
In 2023.
In 2023. So the basic thing we can do, basically, that I advise people is that, when you know that you have protected your work, and you see somebody in of it, the best to do is to go to the court, sue. By the time you sue, the court will make judgment that will become laws. So if the legislatures, the legislative arm, the lawmakers are not making laws to guide intellectual property, if you sue someone and there's a judgment, that judgment becomes a law.
Okay.
That judgment becomes a law, but people are too lazy to go to court. They don't want to approach us. Probably they don't want us to feed. So they don't want to go to court and create laws. So advice my client that comes is, okay, first of all, if you want to go into any business at all, apart from just registering with the Corporate Affairs Commission, make sure you trademark what you are trying to do. Trademark that your name.
Okay.
If you're a musician, make sure you have copyright. Because in law, the people will first in time. I might be the owner of a work. Somebody might be the first to register that work. What happens? The law will look at the person that first registered it. So you have equal right on something. Delay defeats equity. So if you don't take a step to protect your work, and somebody else comes and registers that work, probably he wants to blackmail you, he wants to chicken you to pay him because you know that, oh, you've already started using this name and you would not want to lose that name. He has gone to register it. People do it a lot. We have a lot of shady transactions that people do. They will not find a name. They will probably see that, oh, these people are coming to Nigeria. Take, for instance, maybe Duracell is coming to Nigeria. I know Duracell wants to come to Nigeria. I will first go and register that name, Duracell, and wait for them.
Okay.
So when they get to it will be difficult for them to register that name, Duracell. And then they will be looking for the person that has registered that name so that they can pay off.
But isn't that illegal, so to say, because you already have an idea that... Yeah?
It doesn't matter. See, there's no ignorance in law. It's first in time. It is first in time. I would say, I don't know. I just register the name, and that is it. How am I supposed to know that they do Duracell? But because I'm privy, or I study, I see that these people want to come to my country, I quickly go and do one or two and register it. Once they come, they'll be looking for me now. So I'll just advise, don't just sit down on your business. It is not enough that you have a business name registered. If you have a logo, register it. If you have a write-up, register it.
Now, I could remember perfectly there was a time that the comedian Sabinus, I think he sued Peak for using his image. Now, in that kind of situation, is there like a line to what can be protected by the intellectual property law? Probably one's image, for an example, my image. Can I actually protect it under the intellectual property law? That, okay, anywhere my image is being used, I can sue them.
Of course. See, your own image is even apart from the fact that it's your intellectual property, it's even your physical property.
Okay.
You get my point? So it goes beyond just the intellectual thing. You first took step to make your image known. When your image now became known, you're not okay, oh, let me even now register it. So it's exclusively your, anybody that wants to use it must come and seek your consent. Look at this forex company, Binance.
Okay.
Look at Binance. Look at their logo. It's the celebration of C. Ronaldo. They have to look for C. Ronaldo, pay him huge amount of money to be the ambassador for them to be able to use that is a celebration sign. Because why? He has registered it.
But we've seen cases of a situation, probably photographers. It's common with photographers doing street photography. They just go on the street, take pictures of people. Isn't that like a breach, or are they not trespassing?
Pure breach and trespass. Let me give you an instance. While I was in the university that year, back then, I had a friend that came and said, "Oh, she wants to start modeling and all of that. That because she went into a studio, they took her pictures and all of that. So she wants to start modeling. That they said they want to use her for modeling and all of that. So they actually paid her for modeling. Now, I told her that she should watch out, that she will be on billboards in the country. So one day she was traveling from Lagos to Benin. I think they got to Ore and saw a billboard. So she saw a picture on the billboard from afar. She was like, "Hey, Daddy, look at me, look at me. I told you." So as they were approaching the billboard, lo and behold, what did they see? People living with HIV/AIDS in Nigeria.
Wow.
You get my point?
Yes.
Immediately she sued. We had to call our lecturer. Our lecturer went there. We took it up, sued the modeling agency. So, but people are not aware of all of these things. I think you see the real problem with intellectual property law in Nigeria is the awareness. Intellectual property law is one of the oldest laws in Nigeria, but it is the least exploited, the least tapped. In Nigeria, it is the least.
How do you think we can address some of these challenges? Probably the challenge of awareness or the challenge of outdated constitution.
Let me tell you that, first of all, let our people begin to vote in people with sense into the National Assembly. People that are not lazy. Voting lawyers that know every aspect of the law. Don't just put in farmers that all they think about is philanthropy and all of that. The reason the Assembly is there is to make laws that will protect every aspect of public interest, which includes intellectual property law. Tell me, which member of the National Assembly today can make bold to say he wants to sponsor a bill on intellectual property law? They will not even think. They won't think to that extent. They don't even know that there is in existence something called intellectual property. And then the artists that we have, instead of them to form a quorum, form a group, organization that would fight, agitate for their own right, what would they be doing? They will be praising them. Instead of them to face the real issue, protect themselves, all they will be doing is to praise them. The only person that was close, that attended it that year, I remember, was Charlie Boy. Charles Oputa was there waging war against Alaba International Men that year. I remember vividly in the early 2000s. They were waging war against copyright infringement. But after that, nothing again. So the real issue is the operators of these properties. See, intellectual property is just like land law. It's a property. Land itself is a property.
Yes.
So why can't you take effort to protect your property? It's just like somebody living in a house and does not insure the house, or own a car does not insure the car.
Yes, yes.
So what are you doing? So you know that you have some intellect. You have put it down into writing. You have produced it. You have spent money in making it a reality. Why leave it unprotected?
Thank you very much.
Why leave it unprotected?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Barrister Akinbuli. Our time is actually fast spent. I enjoyed the discussion and I would have loved for us to go on, but our time is fast spent and we have to round up the program right here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. And I hope if I invite you another time, we can go on in the discussion and you would oblige my call.
I would be able to, I would even like to be in the studio live.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on the program today. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. You've heard it. If you have a property, it could be your writing, your image, your creation, it could even be music or something you said, a quote somewhere, have it registered. As long as you have it registered, it is already protected under the Nigerian Constitution. And we have to also urge our legislators, our lawmakers to do something about our constitutional, our intellectual property law in Nigeria. Just like Barrister Akinbuli has said, our constitutions are going outdated and we need to see to the realities of the contemporary world. There is a development of the ICT, the AI, we need to tap into these and, let our constitution reflect what we have in the contemporary world. And with that, I'll be rounding up the program for today. So we'll come back same time, same session next week. I remain Khalid. Bada. Bye for now.